coming home on Christmas Day. Bells are ringing, children singing, home on Christmas Day. Home on Christmas Day. Coming home on Christmas Day.
Hello everyone. So this will be the last of this type of video for me for the year. I'm going to have a couple more videos to put out by the end of the year. At least one. Some kind of recap. My name is Dom. This is Seeking a Thread. And this is the last vinyl absorption I'm going to do for the year. And yes, there'll be a recap sort of telling you about the records that I found that were on my targeted list, me and my silly targeted list. You know, just recapping the year of collecting and maybe some things to come and showing you, some cool stuff, some cool records. My favorite records of the year, my favorite archival records of the year. I'm not going to do a hardcore list on that. I'm not really feeling doing a straight list. I'll probably put one together and maybe like link to it or something like that. Yeah, just feeling like I want to do things a little differently than that. But it'll be a recap of sorts, and I'll be talking about some of my favorite records of the year, new and old. Oh yeah, I also will probably put up a bunch of Instagram shots of records the way everyone's been doing, just so I remember and appreciate the goodness of 2025. But I wanted to highlight some channels, new and old, that I've been enjoying. I've been really getting into Ben Rankin's videos, really giving us a lot of great information about Australian-centric bands. We don't really get enough of that. Fred, certainly Big Star 1000, would do some of that, but he's a little bit absent from videos right now, so... But no, yeah, Ben has been great, highlighting a lot of punk and garage and, psychedelic and all kinds of different indie Australian bands. So I'm really enjoying his. Same goes for Jack, the Vinyl Voyage out of Scotland. It's good to have a channel in Scotland, really, a lot of great indie bands, obviously, from there. So, that is particularly interesting for me. And, Jack seems like a nice dude, too. Not to mention finding some really cool records. And also a new channel called Will Pop. I'll link to all these below, by the way. Will is a guy I've met at WFMU in October or November. And we've been talking a little bit on Instagram and going back and forth, and Will's a nice dude. He's into some interesting music, so he's just starting out his channel. Sub him up if you can. It's what we like to do for each other. Yeah, he's done a few videos now, some of his favorite music of the year, his approach to collecting, some of his sort of like different genres that he likes to go after, as well as a nice little video on Discogs and its newly revamped look and all that stuff. So sub up Will if you can, if you're interested. He's definitely not showing the same old stuff. With that, let's get into this edition of Vinyl Absorption. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about something. Well, the first record I'm showing is the one I'm playing, and maybe some people can give me some more information about this. I don't really have a ton. I didn't look too deep, but for all intents and purposes, this is a King Sunny Ade record, right? That's what we're playing. And in fact, I traded for this at one of my vinyl swaps with Cedric. It's actually not. This is King Sunny Ade here, and it says King Sunny Ade Judgement, or Sunny Ade Judgement Special, but it's actually by Thony Adex and his Sedico band on the Jet label. This is from 1975. And I guess there was some kind of rivalry between these two. And I don't know what this is all about. I think he was trying to go after Sunny Ade for some reason. And they're literally sort of diss tracks, I guess, if I have this right. Some kind of contract dispute. Again, I don't know. I need more information on this. There is a long thing about Thony Adex on the back here. I don't think it mentions anything about King Sunny Ade. Let's see. Well, let's just read this real quick. Thony's position with his first group, Alusati, was prominent, but he decided to quit to face professionalism. then Sentiment after 3 years of leadership. Although he was noted for his cleverness on clefs and accordion, yet his tantalizing and impressive voice that mounts any pitch, even soprano, was an exception. His ambition to head a serious and disciplined group was more of an interest to him than sentiment. After a weekend engagement by 1973, Thony announced his retirement, broke up the band, and disappeared for a couple of months before reappearing to the stage in April of the same year with a new band and new instruments. So who is this guy, Thony Adex? Sorry, Anthony Aluza. I mean, I've seen him courtesy of his visual manager. I've heard him courtesy of his sound manager. I've been impressed by him courtesy of his band manager. A bunch more about him there. So a real strange one. But as you're hearing it, this basically is Sunny Ade. It sounds like King Sunny Ade. So somebody help me out. Explain what this is all about. Alright, we're going to start in the post-punk area. Well, both of these records wouldn't, the next two wouldn't necessarily be designed, your atypical post-punk, but this is Social Climbers, released in 1981 on the Hoboken label. There is a Drag City reissue of this. And this is essentially the work of a guy named Mark Bingham, a name who comes up in a fair amount of places. We're going to talk about him in the next record I show too. I believe this is him here playing basketball, and this dude doing a dance. I think that's A. Leroy, I guess. But anyway, one and only record. Mark Bingham, as I said, is the name. He had a single on Warner Brothers. I actually haven't heard it. It's sort of a folk rock single. He seems like he's doing all kinds of stuff. This is a record of nervous, sort of jittery, Devo-esque, arty post-punk, a lot of just weird compositions, strange amalgamation of stuff. At times it sounds like Henry Cow even. But Mark Bingham is interesting. He was in this band called the Screaming Gypsy Bandits, who I was vaguely aware of, not really, but they did have some records that are kind of collectible. And they were released on Bingham's own label, the Barbecue label, or the BBQ. And those are sort of like folky, psychedelic, 1970s sort of rock, you might say. They seem interesting. I need to listen to those Screaming Gypsy Bandits records. Again, yeah, this is hard to really classify other than anything generic like post-punk in a sense, because it came out in 1981 and it's coming on the heels of all of that music, and it, because of its sort of, chameleon-like nature, it really most fits into that category. So people who like post-punk will like this, except, it's hard to even call it anything close to post-punk. It's really more like art rock, a little bit like a MX80 sound. Devo definitely comes to mind. And Henry Cow, I guess, a little bit. But strange one. I believe they were out of New Jersey, so they were around, the New York City area at this time. They were certainly involved in the no-wave, sort of like maybe the outer fringes of that. We're going to talk about No Wave in a second and sort of what that scene was about, but interesting, and I really like this. I'm not just showing it because it's interesting. I really like where this goes. I don't know who this is. I guess it could be Gene Seton Shaw. I don't, didn't look into that really too quick. Gene could be a man or a woman, couldn't it? Gene Seton Shaw, bass and vocals. A. Leroy, Farfisa organ and chord machine, and Mark Bingham, guitar vocals. So that's 3 people. I'm guessing these are the 3 people, so this could be Gene Seton. But really nice one. Not terribly expensive. Not cheap, I guess, but probably should be a little cheaper. The Drag City reissue, I'm sure, is dirt cheap at this point, so you can find this. And let me show you the label real quick, because that's very important. There it is, Social Climbers. Hope you like this sample.
She loves her job. She has a life outside her kids. I wonder if she knows. I love my dad. He's showing me how. He gave me things I just can't seem to give away. I give and still ain't finding. Detroit, Memphis, I've been through those towns. Quebec, China, everything is ordinary. Munich, Bonn, they listen to the
All right, next, I made allusions to, we're going to stay in that scene, and we're going to stay in post-punk, no wave in this port. We're going to talk about a pretty rare record that I got that popped up, and I decided to go for it. This is called Just Another Asshole, and it's an audio zine. It's an audio zine, technically, helmed by Barbara S. I think there were 6-7 issues of this. 6-7 zines, and this is the only one she did as an LP. So this is technically Just Another Asshole number 5, and it just comes as a basic generic sleeve, but here's all the track list. Barbara S. was in the Y Pants and also the partner of Glenn Branca, so they have produced this. Editors Barbara S. and Glenn Branca, produced with the assistance of White Columns, Spring Street, NYC. So White Columns was a venue that Thurston Moore was working at in the early 1980s, an art space gallery where a lot of bands of the sort of no wave movement were playing. I'm currently reading the Sonic Life book. I'm probably 3/4 of the way through it, and it talks extensively about this time in Thurston Moore growing up, and it talks about this record in particular. And lo and behold, it shows up for sale just a little while after. It's pretty rare. It doesn't come up that often. Not sure how many were made, probably 300 to 500. What is this? It's oh boy, how many tracks is this? Something like 60 tracks maybe? All very short, cut into, each side is cut into 4 bands, so within the band, there's like 8 to 10 songs, or 8 to 10 pieces. And I'll just read you some of the names. So first of all, Thurston Moore, Kim Gordon, and Lee Ronaldo all appear here. This is the first recorded output of Thurston Moore, before any Sonic Youth record. Same with Kim Gordon. And just generic labels. Here's the Just Another Asshole there. So they appear as solo musicians, but Sonic Youth had started and was just starting to record. I think Lee Ronaldo recorded with Plus Instruments just before this, or the same year. This is 1981. But Kim Gordon, Thurston Moore, and Lee Ronaldo, just as solo names, all appear here. And I'm going to give you a couple of cuts and the samples after this. But you'll see this is no wave people, and this is also a lot of experimental arts, and it plays out like a Faust tapes, which is kind of interesting. It's sort of like a no-wave document of experimentalism and people artists just trying to make sound art. There are some proper songs on here, but it's mostly sort of spoken word, dialogue, and it really is an interesting listen. It feels like something you just have as for keepsake, but it actually plays out it kind of captures your attention, and I do feel like it's almost like a Faust tapes. Yeah, so this was made while Thurston Moore was working and helping out at White Columns and booking shows. The Noise Fest tape came out right around this time, the very first appearance of Sonic Youth, and the only time that what's her name? Dee Marinas appears with Sonic Youth. Really interesting, cool listen. Let me tell you who's on here. I'll tell you the names that you may know, but like I said, there's like 60 cuts. Wharton Tears, Dara Bimbaum, Lee Ronaldo, Jenny Holzer, Anita Lockwood's here, and you can tell it's her. Dan Graham, a close associate of them at the time, Michael Smith, Willie Klein, Andy Marinas, who was in Sonic Youth at this time, Thurston Moore, let's see, Andy Blinks, Salvatore Principato of Liquid Liquid, Eric Bogosian, the actor, Remco Shah, Verge Pearsall, I believe was in... I think it was in the Y Pants at that time. Phil Nieblock. Let's see. Okay, side 2. Paul McMahon. Ned Sublette. Bruce Tovsky. Glenn Branca's here. Gail Vachon. Stephen Weischerth. Mark Bingham, as I mentioned, who was in Social Climbers. Michael Byron had a record on... There's a few of those artists that were on Neutral Records. Neutral Records, a close associate here. Laurie Spiegel. Kiki Smith, Barbara S. of Y Pants, who produced this. Peter Gordon, David Rosenblum, also a Neutral release. Doug Snyder, Daily Dance, great record. Reese Chatham and David Linton. Kim Gordon and Miranda. Richard Morrison, Zev, Rudolph Gray. So yeah, a ton of artists. I'll link to this so you can check out all the artists below. But really interesting document of no wave. And a very important sort of piece to the Sonic Youth story. So this is Just Another Asshole from 1981.
I haven't seen you for a long time, so I didn't have a chance to tell you. But after you had me sterilized and rewarded me with the radio, I had a very long and drifting dream.
gonna happen now. I mean, the fucking music today.
Well, you know how I feel about scenes.
Alright, it's much later now, but still on the same duds. Next, two records by the same artist. We have Bügsküll from the mid-90s. This is Snakland on the Scratch label out of California, or I should say Canada, what am I saying? There's that. This one's from 1995, and from 1994. Phantasies and Sensations. I suppose the one that they're most known for, but it's all pretty subtle, or I should say pretty under the radar. This is on the Road Cone label that has done Caliphone records and sort of a lo-fi folk. But again, Phantasies and Sensations from 1994. And this band is the work of a guy named Sean Byrne out of Portland, Oregon. I know that Crazy Jimmy mentioned this band once, or talked about how much he loved Phantasies and Sensations, and it is a record I vaguely remember checking out. This has got some kind of insert in it, but Jimmy really inspired me to go back and look for it again, and I found these two records from the same seller. Decided to get them both from '94. And you have a little bit of everything here. This is one of those kitchen sink bands. It's sort of out of the lo-fi mid-90s, like right out of that sort of time frame. It wouldn't have come out now, I don't think. Kind of remind me a little of the early Flaming Lips, but these guys are not poppy. What Sean Byrne was doing was just really sort of making his own sort of version of experimental music. Throw a little bit of everything. Drony weirdness, throbbing electronics, like fuzzy little nuggets that, like I guess, aren't really necessarily poppy. Bit of an avant-garde indie sort of amalgamation. Clarinet, percussion, drums, violin, keyboards, bass clarinet, saxophone. So not afraid to use the woodwinds and reeds. Interesting band, Bügsküll. There's a bunch of other records, and they had something as late as 2014. So I don't know if this is going to come back. He's probably been doing other things. I'm not necessarily looking into the other records, but yeah, if you like mid-90s lo-fi experimental records, just sort of take you on a bit of a trip, a bit of a journey. I do recommend the Phantasies and Sensations, but this Snakland was cool too. This one was I found to be a little more song-based, song-oriented, but from mid-90s, 94, 95, Bügsküll. They kind of went more in an electronic direction as they went on later, but next 3 records are from a friend of mine, Joe, who runs the Carbon label out of Rochester, a little under 2 hours from me. He sent all of these to me as gifts, with no expectation to talk about them. But he knows the kind of stuff I like, and these are all New Zealand artists. An artist who passed, Peter Stapleton, who was a part of, he's basically was a legend in terms of everyone he played with. Scorched Earth Policy, of course, Pin Group has the very first release on Flying Nun. The Victor Dimisic Band, Terminals, Flight Inside the Sun, Dodoma, which was with Roy Montgomery, so a very close associate of Roy Montgomery. He formed this band I, and these are 2 technically archival releases because Peter Stapleton died in 2020. He was sick with cancer. And this is not pop music. This is very much New Zealand avant-garde noise, sort of noise rock, but not. These songs don't rock. They're more sort of like noise tapestries of sound. And we have Prophecy, recorded in 2015, 2019 at various places in New Zealand. This is a co-release with Grapefruit Records, as is this one. Also recorded in various places. Peter Stapleton is the main player, doing electronics and vocals. He was a drummer in all of those legendary bands, but towards the end of his life, and doing this band I, they're just called I, people. He couldn't play drums anymore. His sickness prohibited him from doing that, but he still found a way to make sound and use vocals and just sort of electronic processing. With Peter Stapleton, his main collaborator was Peter Porteous, doing guitar, singing, Thai singing bowls, or Tibetan singing bowls, and John Chapman doing synth and other sort of noise. So that's the trio that you can see. So these are the 2 records that were put out by Carbon. And also Joe sent me the zine that was all about the band. So this comes with, you can still get this, I'm pretty sure. This is Peter Stapleton back here playing this big frame drum when he could play. And the whole story of them is here. You know, he founded the Lines of Flight. That was Peter Stapleton's festival, all avant-garde experimental music. So you get flyers in here, various pictures of them performing. And it's a cool document of, everyone thinks of the New Zealand sort of indie and pop, records, obviously, and I do too. But there's quite a big tradition of avant-garde music in New Zealand, going back to the 70s, early 80s, especially with bands like Bruce Russell, or Dead Sea, Bruce Russell, Michael Morley, and the Expressway label, which the Terminals certainly had releases on. So I really like these. This is, I wouldn't say these are for everyone. If you like some of the more early Sonic Youth, and it's mentioned in here, noise excursions, you'll like these. Very free noise. They do a cover on here, actually. They do a Dodoma cover. I believe it was Too Hot to Dry on Prophecy here. But if you like this type of free noise, it sort of becomes into like a sort of a more orchestral, I shouldn't say orchestral, or atmospheric bass. I think there's a lot to like here. This is just sort of very throbby, engaging noise music. Done with guitars and synthesizers, various processing. Really interesting. Peter Stapleton, obviously a legend. Yeah, he died right in March 2020, but it was cancer. So pretty interesting and inspiring that he was recording, I think 2 weeks before he passed. So thank you, Joe, for sending me these 2 I records. There are other I records, by the way, that run previous to this, which I haven't really checked out much yet. But this is a brand new release by Bilders, aka the Bilders. There's a ton of Bilders records under his own name. The spelling always slightly varies, but this is another release with Grapefruit on the Carbon label called Neverlasting. Bilders with Alec McManus and Matt Swanson and Claire Hume. What does this sound like? This sounds a little like latter-day Leonard Cohen, I think. He's going for a much more, his vocals are way up front. It's less of a sort of like indie or indie punk, like what he was doing in the early 80s. And Bilders really kind of inadvertently sounding like some of the more quieter Yo La Tengo songs. That sort of like bedroom vibe that Yo La Tengo can sometimes get into. It sort of reminds me of the latter the last few records that Hamish Kilgore did, of the Clean. Really fascinating character, really great lyricist. I really like his directness in the lyrics. Really nice, sort of light psychedelic but sweeping production. A lot of like electric piano. Because this is definitely a lamb chop comes to mind, as well as those latter-day Leonard Cohen records, like I said. This is like the core lineup of a band that he's been playing with for a bunch of years now. This is just one of those like really nice, easy to get into, easy to sort of like latch onto sort of the songs and the songwriting that he's doing here. I really like the way he phrases his vocals too. Bildering. So this is the brand new record by the Bilders. Perhaps there'll be more. There's plenty more Bilders records to get into. You can check those out. Some of them are quite collectible, of course, being part of the Flying Nun thing. But yeah, if you like Americana or like really direct folk music, but it's sort of folk rock, I say more than anything, check out the Bilders and this new record, Neverlasting, on the Carbon and Grapefruit label.
I never had another idea. The emphasis was already clear. The place I'm going to is here. Even now it's crumbling. We live within an outer case. Our daily bread, our outer chase. Desire is such a private place. So easy to scramble.
Here's a band I've been talking about this year as I've been going through and deciding like what records to sell and purge. I've been pulling out my Oneida records, and this is one that I actually bought. I had the CD of this, and I found this record for like $15. Oneida, this is their 7th record from 2005 on the Jagjaguwar label. It's called The Wedding. This one is a great one to get into if you don't know this band. Definitely an experimental, bombastic, psychedelic rock band, but sort of more on the experimental side and more on the sort of repetitive, droney side. The earlier records have some really engaging and sort of like shocking moments, like when they play Step Into the Light, Sheets of Ether. They famously played at, I think it was the 2001 WFMU record fair that I went to, the first one I ever went to, where they played in the aisle. In the record fair, not on a stage. They played in one of the aisles. Picture that, people. Here's the poster that came with it. And this is a band that's still, beautiful poster, still kind of releasing music. They had something within the last couple of years. And this one is unique. It's a few different people, by the way. Bill Million is the, I'm sorry, not Bill Million. Kid Millions is the drummer, sort of like almost the front leader of the band. Hanoi Jane, Kid Millions, and Bobby Matador. So they bring a lot of string arrangements on this, and that's one of the cool things I like about it, which is unlike some of their other records. A really sort of orchestral aspect that adds a lot to the music. I really enjoyed this. So The Wedding, I didn't have this on record. I have a lot of their CDs and some records, and this one I was going through the CDs and also the records. I did sell a few records, but decided to actually track this down. So I was supposed to be purging, and I bought. So famous to me also because they were one of the key members of the 77 Boa Drum with the Boredoms, which I'd love to talk about some more. In 2007, July 7th, 2007, 77 drummers in Brooklyn, Dumbo. Kid Millions and the band, Kid Millions in particular, was a really big part of that. So great live band. I've seen them a few times. Yeah, love the organ sound that happens with this band. Really cool. So they go back to pre-2000s New York, when New York was, before it had the revolution of all the Strokes and the Yeah-Yeah-Yeahs and the Interpols and all that. So this band goes back a ways and still sort of kicking. So really love Oneida. Not everything you need, but this is one to definitely grab. The Wedding from 2005.
But stranger and birds have joined together, then you'll be.
First time on vinyl situation from an Australian, talking about Australia, indie pop band called Hydroplane. This used to be the Cat's Meow, who was pretty much straight up lo-fi indie, sort of like an Australian version of what was on the postcard or sour labels. That was the Cat's Meow, and a few of the members started this band, Hydroplane, which wasn't supposed to be very much. They were supposed to just make like a demo record in '97 on the drive-by, is it just, or drive-in label in the US actually. And they were supposed to just release a 7-inch and then quit, but they ended up releasing a whole LP, and this was it. Self-titled Hydroplane. This is on Efficient Space out of Australia. And like I said, this is from 96, 97, recorded in Melbourne, not released on vinyl until now, so that's what we have here. This came out just this year. Be a contender for some, end of the year stuff, but I love this band. This is great. They use like drum machines that are a little dated perhaps, but in a good way to me. Mainly the Cat's Meow. They had an EP on World War II Jukebox I'm kind of looking for. And yeah, if you like the Young Marble Giants or Galaxy 500, the Cananes, this kind of sound, you're going to be pretty happy with this. Definitely a great, austere but sort of reserved, endearing indie pop, but more like back of the room indie pop, like a little more sedate, a little more quiet, a little sort of weird. You're gonna hear a track on the preview's completed extract from the previous 7-inch. This is Hydroplane, and I forgot to mention, there was a brand new record they released this year. This is not it. Like I said, this is from '97, so I did like that. I ended up not buying that, so check that out too. Hydroplane.
There was a time when we were both in
Here's some jazz. We have the Charles Tyler Quartet. It's volume 2. I don't have volume 1, but I have volume 2. I found this locally here at Angry Mom. I'm trying to really track down anything Charles Tyler, and particularly anything with Steve Reed, and that fits the bill here. Steve Reed is here on drums with Earl Cross and Kevin Ross. This one gets pretty wild. This is from 1981, recorded in Stockholm, but I think released in '84. It's on the Storyville label. Charles Tyler, the great alto tenor saxophonist. These are mainly his compositions, except for Earl Cross does one. And this just gets pretty out there. I think he's playing He might do some Barry on this. Yeah, he does. The second side is all alto, the second side is baritone, the first side is alto, and he definitely goes for those little registers and throttles you over the head with it. But a great sound. If you hear Steve Reed's drumming, always stands out. I really love this. I'll have to get volume 1 if I see it, but one of those ones I like to find in the stores. So definite. Charles Tyler Quartet. Yeah, skronky and out there. Yeah, if you didn't know, Earl Cross, I meant to mention this. Earl Cross trumpet, a little bit lesser known, but did have some time with Noah Howard and Rashid Ali. So. Another one. This one's a little more sort of sort of world fusion, or pan global jazz. The Chrysler Bothén again. We're doing another Chrysler Bothén record, playing Dusu and Goni on that new record for Black Sweat. I always forget. But also a saxophonist as well, and this is from 1986, called Trancedance, and this is with the group Bolon Bata. It's on the Organic Music imprint, a small but sort of influential imprint there. And this is really, I was really able to get this in the US for like a really cheap price based on what it's been going for. It's got the original inner sleeve here. Here's Bolon Bata, the group he's playing with. It's essentially Scandinavian jazz musicians playing Bügsküll, the Gwimbri. Love hearing the Gwimbri. Soprano sax, tenor, bass clarinet. Actually, that's all that Bothén is playing. Excerpt from this album can also be heard on the following records: Don Cherry Organic Music, apparently, and Eternal Now, so I didn't realize that. But he formed the Bolon Bata group in 1982 when completing both sides of this album, so it was really good. There's like some electric guitar that's tasteful. It doesn't go too far into solo land, which can bug me out. But I love this. If you love any of the Don Cherry, Swedish records, you really need to get this. There is a reissue, I think, again, on Black Sweat or Black Truffle. I always forget. I think it's Black Truffle in this case. This is so good, though. I was able to get this for like $40 in the US, and I was really, really, really happy to find it for that price, actually. Originally from 84 in Sweden. I mean, there's a giant list of people playing on each track, two tracks per side. Just love this one, Trancedance. Yeah, like if you like the Bitter Funeral Beer Band, the Bitter Beer Band, you really need to check this out. It came out right around the same time. Basically, it's some of the same musicians. This is like his first, essentially, solo record under his own name. So, it's great to hear him playing all these different instruments and Bügsküll, Gwimbri, there's marimbas. You have really a little bit of everything. It's a lovely, hypnotic, and groovy record. There we go. The organic music label. Next, a drony avant-garde record by Christina Kubish. This also from the mid-80s, 1984. This is called Night Flights. 1987. This is on the Auf dem Nil label, Italian avant-garde label that I really like. Talking about this music is in the notes are in German and in English, as she is a German artist. But I said this is like an Italian release, and this is really interesting. This is a little bit in the, I wouldn't quite say new age, but ambient or minimalism, except this definitely lives more on the fringes and definitely more on the, chaotic side of that. A little more atonal, not atonal, but a little more chaotic, a little more noise-based. A little more tension on this one, which is what's cool, to have tension and release, and you get that here. Born in 48, she recorded on the Cramps label, really expensive one, 1979. Really cool dynamic ambient elements happening. She's using sound installation and working with ultraviolet light that comes into play on this release. She's one of these people who, really investigates space-time and how music intersects with both, really doing sound installation, sound art. And obviously had lots of exhibitions. A lot of different stuff happening here. Trumpet, singing bowls, synth, sonic manipulation. We do have Walter Maioli and Roberto Linieri contributing. I think Linieri was in the Prima Materia, I believe, if I have that right. Yeah, this isn't like one of those like relaxing ambient releases. This is definitely gonna, put a little grit in the atmosphere, get the hair up on your arm a little bit. Really nice. I have more to look into with our Christina Kubish Night Flights. On the Auf dem Nil label. Nice labels there. 2 left, and this is one I got from Lance at Permanent Records through one of his Instagram sales, going back to like the summer. Man for Man Chapter 3. I had the press. This is the original UK Vertigo press. This is just like, you know, when you think of jazz funk, this to me is what you want. A bit prog, a little bit rock, a little bit of everything. I think this has the inner Vertigo bag. Yeah, gotta have the bag. So, 2 records from Man for Man Chapter 3, and this is before he formed the Earth Band, of course, which would have those hits, or the hit. This is from 1969. Chapter 2 is good too. This is really the one, you know, One Way Glass is the big hit on this, on the second side. Mike Hugg is really the vocalist, though, playing piano, while Man for Man is doing electric organ, and you have Bernie Living, alto and flute. Steve York, Fender bass. Of course you have Fender bass, as well as guitar, harp, and Craig Colling drums. Like I said, the artwork for the US release is completely different than on the Polydor label. Yeah, it's sort of like prog adjacent, sunny jazz funk. A lot of breaks you'll find on this record. Really great horns, stabbing horns. Only around 2 years before they formed the Earth Band, so this didn't last very long. It did have some success. I mean, it was released in a lot of different countries, Japan, Austria, the US, of course, Netherlands. So this one did come out in the US, but on that other design, which you may know, may have seen, the second album did not, though. But I do love this one. Really love the horns. Really love the throbbing and the sort of dreamy vocals that you get from Hugg. So I was really happy to see this come through one of the Instagram sales from Permanent Records one night.
I was blind, not to see so clearly what was on your mind. And I ain't got time now to play the fool. I ain't got time to waste all.
And the last one is the great Philip Smart in this dub compilation, Prince Philip Presents. Philip Smart at King Tubby's. This is all unreleased dubs, a double LP. I've been listening to this one all year. This came out in the spring, maybe. Dubplates and raw rhythm from King Tubby's studio, 73 to 76. King Tubby's apprentice, the first engineer at his studio other than King Tubby, was this man, Philip Smart. If you don't know Philip Smart, look into him. Just really great records. Close associate of Augustus Pablo, so you'll hear him turn up. And these are all unreleased cuts from that archive. Prince Philip, the dub master. So this isn't like a compilation of previously released material. Of course, some of this stuff will sound familiar. That's the nature of dub music, of dub in general. But, you know, when you're talking about King Tubby, you're talking about a legend, and one we all know, and we all should be checking out King Tubby as much as possible, of course. Yeah, just a nice 2 LP run through some dub plates, and a great way to pick up on Philip Smart if you don't know Prince Philip on the Digikiller label. That's where I'm going to leave the final vinyl absorption of the year. Like I said, stay tuned for my year-end wrap-up, which is still shaping up. It'll probably be out within the last few days of the year. Maybe within, we'll see, before New Year's. It'll probably be come out in that time between the 25th and New Year. So there's a few other things to announce that hopefully will happen soon. Of course, tune into the Vinyl Community Social Club Mondays at 9:15 Eastern Time with Chris and Jason and Joel. And yeah, much more to come on this channel. If I don't talk with you, enjoy your holiday, enjoy your Christmas as this comes out. And I'll talk with you soon.
Round the Christmas tree, where old friends meet, and new friends too, and greet you in the same old way. Home on Christmas. Thank you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord keep you. Merry Christmas, baby. Around the Christmas tree, where old friends meet, and new friends too, and greet you in the same old way. Home on Christmas Day. Wanna know? A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.